Spinners, weavers, and everyone out there who might be watching. My name is Bee, and I am the creator of the Spinning Knitter podcast, also on Instagram as The Spinning Knitter, and this is episode 7.5. It is episode 7.5 in spite of the fact that there is no episode 7, because I recorded episode 7 and then found out that my phone died, so I don't have an episode 7 anymore, which is okay, because even though I was really disappointed and then I didn't have time to record again for a very long time, I am back and ready to share some of the things that will never make it to you from the original episode, and to show you some new things that happened along the way. So welcome to this spinning, knitting, weaving, crocheting, any type of crafting podcast. Welcome on this journey with me. So as always, I would like to show you a little bit of what I've been working on and what I've been doing with my life, and especially for my friends and family that are watching this, I'm sorry I haven't reconnected in a couple of months. Work has been very busy per usual, and I actually took a trip down to Florida recently with Grandma. Hey Grandma. And had a lot of fun with that. So I've been doing a lot of things, seeing a lot of people that I miss. However, I have of course managed to go to many bookshops, and I also have no shortage of books here at home. So let me share one with you that I wanted you to check out. This is the first real crafting book related history book that I've shown you guys. This is Old Hand Knitters of the Dales, with an introduction to the early history of knitting by Marie Hartley and Joan Ingleby. I believe it was originally published in 1951. I have the 2014 edition right here, and it is a look at Yorkshire knitting, sort of. So these women were historians before they were proclaimed historians by the rest of us, and they realized that knitting was being pushed out of Yorkshire during the industrial, or prior to the Industrial Revolution, and decided to document what was going on. So almost 60 years ago, probably closer to 70 now, this book came out, and it is one of the best-selling knitting books of all time. So if you have not yet read it, I would encourage you to. It starts out with a introduction by historian Penelope Hemingway, I want to say. I should probably just look down. Penelope Hemingway, I got it. And she details the hard work that these two women did and some of the things that happened in their lives that were very interesting, and how they did a lot of work to track down and trace documents and people and preserve those stories about knitting in the Yorkshire Dales. It's more than just a history book. There is one pattern in here called the George Walton gloves that is a pattern with lots of fun details. Let me see if I can. So these are the original gloves. And of course in the front in color, those are the original gloves. And they have detailed how to reproduce these original gloves and as close to the original method as they can. So I thought that you all would like that. I have enjoyed this book very much. I'm not super far into it, but it's been very interesting to see how much of our textile history has been lost based off of not taking care to preserve it. And these two women, Marie Hartley and Joan Ingleby, have preserved a very beautiful tradition for us so that we can at least learn a little bit about it. So check that out. Okay, so what have I been doing in the at least 5 months since I last saw you. Well, initially, what I detailed in the non-existent podcast, I had stopped doing any sort of crafting since just before Thanksgiving, right after the last episode that came out, and didn't touch anything until probably about January or February, when I purchased a spindle from Liz of Greensleeves Spindles. And lovely Liz, her spindles always inspire me to kind of get back to the basics of why I love crafting. So she kind of kicked me back into the spin with a beautiful new piece from her. And I've been kind of steadily but slowly crafting on and off since then. One of the first things that I started on was a little bit of actually wheel spinning. So you can't see it, but my Ashford Kiwi is over in the corner over here, and I have an Ashford Kiwi 1. I purchased it quite a while ago from a gal who had it for a long time, and had put it through quite a bit of use, and had just decided that spinning wasn't for her, and so I got it for a song from her. And it has a great little wheel that has served me well. If you're interested in budget wheels, the Ashford Kiwis are beautiful wheels that are very sturdy and will last you and your creative skills a lifetime. If you want to pursue that end of it, you guys know from my last video that my dream wheel is a shacked matchless, but by no means do the Ashford Kiwis are they shoddy pieces of equipment. They are wonderful, and they can take you wherever you want to go when it comes to spinning. So I would recommend them. If there are other brands that don't interest you, they are a great place to start, and they have a lot of different options. One of the things, I was told that I would not be able to fit 4 ounces of fiber onto a 2-ounce bobbin, and I routinely prove this wrong. This is 4 ounces of a beautiful, beautiful colorway, and this is the braid by Trisha of Wound Up Fiber Arts. It is gorgeous. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's rusty oranges, dark browns, really plummy purples, and my favorite shade of blue, in case you can't tell that it's my favorite shade of blue, cobalt blue in here. And of course a pretty creamy base with gray overtones, which I dearly love. Always fascinating. Of course, the braid is much brighter than when you spin the fiber up. For some reason, for me, the colors tend to be lighter on the bobbin, probably because of how I don't prep anything, and darker in the braid. But everybody has a different way of spinning, or a different lack of method or method to their madness. Mine just happens to routinely show the colors lighter after spinning, which I don't mind because I can plan for it. Either way, this is Trisha's card. Wound Up Fiber Arts. She is a Michigan-based woman-run business. This polar silk of Chasing Dreams is just gorgeous. I wanted to get my hands on this colorway from Trisha for quite a few months, and I finally got it, and I got 3 braids, which I intend to make a shawl from. So I am in the process of filling another bobbin, much like this one, and in the end I will have 3 bobbins, and we'll ply them all together on my artsy fartsy German art yarn wheel, my Beckman Willy, which will do a beautiful job, and I will have a 12-ounce skein of yarn at the end, because that bobbin on that wheel, it is not very fast. Like the diameter, there's only 1 ratio, so it takes me forever to ply something, but it will be a continuous skein of yarn, all 12 ounces from stem to stern, and I look forward to that very much. But that bobbin can fit probably 16 ounces of fiber easily and still have space for more, which I love about it. I have also, so a lot of this I have had for quite a while. This is a braid. Aren't these gorgeous colors? Doesn't it remind you of like a beautiful Florida swamp scene? Like the colors in this braid just remind me of Florida. I don't know what it is. Or the mountains by where I went to school. It's just as gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous colors. Love it. Like, look at this. Look at those pops. Aren't they stunning? Or how about like right here? Ruth would love this orange and blue put together. She just love it. So this is Wee Chickadee Fiber, Jen of Wee Chickadee. And oh, I got it. So this is her logo. Isn't that cute? So this colorway is Back Roads, and it's 100% superwash merino. Jen dyes in Oregon. And I only have one braid of this fiber, but I don't mind that because generally I can't focus on a spin long enough to get through more than one braid of one color. I will make myself if I have to, but most of the time I spin something up and then I'll look for another superwash merino braid that complements this, purchase it, and then apply them together. And then I have a completely unique set of colors. Every skein of hand spun is unique on its own, but I have an even more unique set. I also have hair attached to everything. Downside to having long hair, it goes everywhere. There's nothing you can do about it. So this spin, I'm actually using two of Liz's beautiful spindles. They are Ethan Jacobs with Fancy Pants, and what that means is Liz has created specific designs such as the Ethan Jacob, and then this idea of Fancy Pants is where she takes the bottom and she puts fancy pants on it, which sounds funny, but let me show you what that means in reality. So this is an Ethan Jacob. This is the style of spindle that she has created, and Fancy Pants is the underneath. So a regular Ethan Jacob may have a completely flat bottom down here with no cutout. But what the cutout does is allow Liz to make the spindle lighter, and I think also give her something more to do because she's very creative. And she churns out, I don't know how she makes all the spindles that she does, because whenever I have asked her for a spindle or requested something or she's offered something, she whips these babies out like there is no tomorrow, and I am constantly surprised. And each one is perfect. I have never gotten a spindle from Liz that is not perfect. I really haven't. I've never had a flaw. I've never had a spindle that doesn't spin true from her ever. So I am working with two of her Ethan Jacobs, and I filled up this one and I'm working on this one. So one is Bloodwood and Pommel Bugdinga, and the other one is a Paduke and Chechen, and they both have mahogany shafts, and they're just gorgeous. They're both around 0.8 ounces. Pretty sure. Positive. Almost positive. We'll be positive that I'm almost sure about how much they weigh. So Liz's spindles, Liz does top row spindles, and like I said, I've never had one with a flaw ever. These two look very similar until you put them close together. I hope that shows up. And then you can see the grain in each one is completely different. Each one of Liz's spindles is just a treasure, both to work with and to see, because they're just gorgeous. So I am spinning this up. Now keep in mind, this is superwash merino, and superwash merino is one of those things that I was told for a long time could not be sorry about the interruption, mailman. I was told for a long time that superwash merino could not be spun long draw, and that is not true. It is just harder to do. So I decided that this braid, I wanted to be as light and fluffy and squishy as I could make it while having fun. So I have spun all of this long draw. Now, the negative to that is that I cannot fit as much on my spindle, not because the spindle can't handle it, but because long draw, the way that I do it on a spindle, I don't want to over spin the yarn, so I can only fit so much before the consistency varies in a way that I don't like. This is probably about, I want to say I have about a sixth of the braid on here, and that's fine by me. I don't mind being able to fit less on my spindle, because superwash, the scales on superwash wool are basically non-existent. They can't grip onto each other like regular wool to hold everything together. So when you do long draw with superwash, there are no scales there to really catch and hold the fibers together so that you can create the sturdiness of a regular woolen spun. That's what makes it harder to spin superwash long draw, especially with a drop spindle, because it doesn't grab onto anything and it slips, the fibers slip past each other so much quicker. So this is a challenge for me, but it's also just been fun because this fiber is fun to spin, these spindles are fun to use, and it's just been a fun project so far. So I'm working on that. And then next up I have, so I don't consider these two long-term projects, the first two projects. I'm motoring through them, and my idea of a short-term project is a year. Something's gonna take me a year to finish. That to me is a short-term project. A long-term project to me is something that is gonna take possibly multiple years on end, or could be the exact opposite, and it could be something that flies by very quickly. To give you an example, I have a braid of fiber from Rachel, crafted by Locals, in the River Rocks colorway. And this is a 75-25 of BFL and Tussa silk. And Rachel does a gorgeous, gorgeous job with all of her colors. I love them, and the prep on her braids is amazing. So this is the braid I'm working with. This is the River Rocks braid. And you can see it's got these gorgeous shades of cloudy blue and like a sea green, sea foam color, and then this dusty rose almost. It's a little bit more rusty than a dusty rose, but either way, it's gorgeous. And I told you about my long-term project at one of the previous episodes that I have for this. I bought 3 braids of fiber with varying shades in each one of the same colors. So I'm planning on spinning all those up. They're all BFL Tussa silk by Rachel. And it's a long-term project because I'm going to spin them all up on spindles, and then I'm going to ply them together, and they're going to be for me, fairly dense, thick squishiness that's going to be a hard-wearing shawl. Living in the north, it's beautiful right now. I wish I could show you the outside. Maybe I'll take some footage and show you later with my new phone that actually works. But up here, the weather gets so very, very cold, and is cold for 2/3 of the year. For instance, we warmed up, we got into the 90s, we hit 95. That's not normal where I am from. Our normal high during the summer is the low to mid 80s, and that's a good summer. Most people where I live don't have air conditioning. They buy window units if we really, really need them, because it just doesn't get that warm here. A normal summer would be being in the 70s consistently with spikes into the 80s. And of course, there's lots of lakes by where I live, so it's very humid when it does get hot. But the flip side to that is for instance, this year was a little weird, but we had snow all the way up into May, like full snow covering the ground until May, and it melted in late May. So June has been clear for us, but it's been back and forth with the temperature. So last week we were in the 50s and 60s. This week we're in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and next week we're going back to the 60s and 70s. So it fluctuates a lot. If you're a barometer person and your sinuses fluctuate with the weather, it's not the greatest situation, but it is still beautiful and worth living through up here. Anyway, the point of that is we need very thick, very warm garments for the most part, and the shawls that I do make, I wear, and the ones that I've made, I've worn to a frazzle, or I've usually give them away to someone I love. So this one is going to be for me because these are my colors, the colors that I really like, and it's going to be very thick, very squishy, and very one of a kind. So if you want to check that out, I'll put the episode that I actually talked about that shawl and how I plan to make it across the screen somewhere, because that'll be easier. So I am working on this. I have one turtle done already. And it's really pretty, as you can see, all spun up and very light and fluffy. This is a thicker spin for me. It's not a skinny spin by any means. And to facilitate that, I am using, you're not gonna be able to see it super well, but I am using my Carrie Cherry. I call it the cotton spindle because it has cotton and eucalyptus leaves on it, but my cotton spindle. And this is from Galena of Carrie Cherry. It's a beautiful, I think this is one of her small oak spindles with the paintings on it. Hope you can see that. I find her Turks to be a delight to use. There are really only 3 people whose Turks I regularly use. I found many wonderful makers of Turks, but these are just special and they hold a place in my heart, and Galena is one of them. I've once again never had any piece from her that is anything less than perfect. She does hers an entirely different way, and of course they are from Russia. She collaborates with a local craftsman to make these, and you can get them in all sorts of different sizes. I love her minis, and her smalls are my favorites. I would like to get a plying spindle from her someday, but I haven't invested in that yet. So hopefully when the world goes back to being a little bit more normal, I'll be able to do that. So I have several of hers, specifically her smalls and her minis, that I use routinely. And hers are very unique. A lot of people have pointed corners, and hers are not pointed. Hers are curved, which makes it very easy if you ever look at, if you pay attention to different hashtags on Instagram and different posts, it's very easy, very easy to spot Galena's spindles. Just like it's very easy to spot Liz's spindles. They just have that unique edge to them that makes them pop and stand out. Kind of like Jenkins spindles, you can usually tell really quickly because of the style of them, or Snyder spindles, the cutout spindles specifically, you can usually tell. The other one that you can tell, I might as well just show you this. So this is the other one of the other Turkish spindle makers that I love, and this is Enid Ashcroft, which I'm sure you guys are already talking about and have seen her stuff. It is very difficult to get a hold of her spindles. She is in Britain, the UK, and you can catch her updates, but you can't always get something from her updates because everyone knows her quality and they snatch these babies up so very quickly. I have not gotten one for months because I miss the updates or when I get an alert for her updates, I've been driving and haven't been able to pull over quickly enough to catch them. But I do have quite a collection of her spindles as well. And this one is of poplar for the arms and sapele for the shaft. And it is currently housing a semi-long-term project using some fiber from Heavenly Bresser. So look at this. Isn't this gorgeous? Look at these colors. So this is Heavenly's, I cannot remember, oh, they're right in front of me. Heavenly Niche, at least I think it's Niche, is the name of her company. And this is a 50-50 of Shetland and rose fiber. Just look at those colors. It is in the colorway Mountain Meadows. And this is a unique blend for me. I've spun Shetland before, I've spun rose fiber before, but I have not spun them together. And they are two very, very different fibers, but they blend very well together. And I decided I wanted to keep the colors look so sophisticated and warm and kind of old world cottagey. Look here. Very old world cottagey. And so soft and soothing, and kind of, they remind me of like a Downton Abbey color, as well as Mountain Meadows. But I wanted to kind of honor that and how I put it together. And so I am doing I have two braids, and I am doing a very thick and thin single woolen spun. And as you can see, this is how I deal with chain plying. So it's chain plied or Navajo plied, depending on what you call it. And I store up fiber on my shaft until I'm ready to ply it, and then unwind the fiber onto my left hand and then ply it. And then I add it to the turtle. So it's a longer process, but it ends up being a thoroughly finished yarn by the time you're done with it, which I really like. I like that aspect of it. And as you can see, look at these color shifts. So once again, I don't really play with colors a lot when I spin. I just I don't manage them. I just let them do what they want to do. So these are the subtle types of shifts that you see when you chain ply a braid from end to end with those colors. They just meld together so beautifully. She has in her braid, the colors are very subtle and they transition back and forth very, very smoothly and quite quickly. Oh, I should show you this. So that's her moniker. So what I do is I take a section of the braid and then I put it into strips that are about 1 inch wide, not much larger, and spin from that. Now this braid was compacted because it went with me to Florida, so everything is a little bit squished together compared to what it was when I started. But I take these nests or bundles, whatever you want to call them, and I spin one up completely, and then I ply it. And because those color runs are so short with when I strip the braid down like this, it just melds together very well. And that's what I like. I don't particularly go for huge blocks of color. I like things that kind of shift and move into one another, which is fun, and I like that. On the other hand, if you ever want to get out of your comfort zone, you can just buy something that's the opposite of what you would normally buy, which is exactly what I did. So this is grayscale, this is Corriedale and bamboo fiber from the wonderful Shannon of Beautiful Life Fiber in Oregon. And let's see if I can show you. So this is her. I don't have her card on me right at the moment. So this is pretty unique. She takes Corriedale in 2 or 3 different colors depending on which colorway you buy. And she over dyes the black, the gray, and the undyed along with the bamboo. And when you spin this up, it's like you get a depending on how you manage it, you get a marbling effect, which is super interesting. So I have 2 braids of this that I'm gonna do who knows what with. I don't know. What I'm gonna do is have fun, because Corriedale is probably one of my top 3 favorite fibers to spin. Probably. I don't know. I said something about it in another episode and I can't remember what I said. I just know I had fun. Have fun. BFL is the first fiber I started out with, and it's still my comfort fiber. It's the ultimate comfort fiber for me. So dealing with Rachel's braids that are beautifully, I mean, look at how much air is in there. I didn't do anything to this, and she sends it to you, and it's this fluffy. This is just how she preps the braids. They're gorgeous. BFL is my comfort zone, which is probably why I'm working with so much of it right now. And that's because that's what I learned to spin on. So Corriedale was the next fiber that I chose to work with that I also really, really loved. And then I switched right after that I tried Tarhi. And Tarhi, if you've ever spun with it, is so different from BFL and Corriedale that I was like in shock. I was in shock over how bouncy and how springy it was, and I wasn't entirely sure how to deal with that springiness, that bounciness that is Tarhi, and that led me into trying so many different other fibers, because I couldn't believe that they were both wool and they both came from sheep, and yet, you know, they were so opposite. And since then I've spun a lot of different things, camel, yak, Zordables, many other different sheep breeds, Southdown, Finn, Jacob, all sorts of things. I think the only thing I haven't tackled yet is cotton, and that's because cotton is not a fiber that I really enjoy. I know there are people who do enjoy cotton, but I'm really not a cotton person. I really like camel. Camel is probably my favorite strange or expensive or weird fiber that I really enjoy. But my comfort spot is still just that regular good old BFL Corriedale. Still my favorite. Anyway, after all that rambling, let me show you one more thing before I close out. Maybe 2 things. I haven't decided yet. I'll show you both. So, first, as I just flashed across the screen, spoiler alert, my issue of ply came in last week. Check this out. Is that not a gorgeous bat? Maybe I'll talk about the bats that I have again after this. We'll have to see. Anyway, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous bat on the front. I really want to just touch this, squish this, and then spin it up. So this is issue, I think, let me just read it. Issue 37, summer 2022, and it's the Mix magazine. And I don't look through my magazines, like I don't flip through and look at pictures. I read them from start to finish because I don't want spoilers. But I did sneak in here and I did read JC's from the editor, because she always gives you this kind of little rundown about what's going on in her life, what's going on in the life of Ply, and then a little bit about what you're going to read, and it looks so interesting. And then I peeked even further, and Judith Mackenzie has written an article on sheep and Scotland. I mean, you can't get much more interesting than that, because it's Judith freaking Mackenzie. If you don't know about her, she literally does like everything. I think she spins, she weaves, she knits, she dyes. I think the last little blurb that they had on her Imply said she makes paper or something like that. I can't remember, but she is like super, super multi-talented, and she has so many books and so many videos. You cannot go wrong with picking up a Judith Mackenzie book or video. And I'm excited just for the first article, and that's just for the first article. Ply, if you're interested, with the exception of a couple issues that they had sold out from and have not reprinted, such as their very first issue and a couple of really, really specialty issues, you can back order all of the Ply magazines. And honestly, it's a great birthday or Christmas gift for yourself, because it's what I did. That's what I did for myself a little while ago, because I had gotten in here and I was like, I think I was on issue 23 or 24 when I first got a hold of Ply. I couldn't believe that this resource was available in this wealth of information. And when I realized that I could back order everything from before, I just saved up for it and I did it. And I'm so happy that I did, because this is an amazing magazine. The research and the talent and the knowledge and wisdom that are in these articles from these wonderful spinners and knitters and weavers, dyers, designers, it's amazing. So I would encourage you to check those out if you haven't. And so someone messaged me and asked me, because I had told you guys about doing watercolor, how I've been learning and I like to do that. She asked me if I could show you a picture. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you a picture, and then I will see you next time. So if you have any questions or comments, you can message me down below or get me on Instagram. Of course, if you're related to me, like half of you are, you can always just text me or call me, because I will most likely pick up the phone if I see your name. Unless, of course, it's a couple of you, in which case I'm going to avoid you like the plague. Just kidding. So yeah, do watercolor. Check this out, and I will see you next time. Bye.